Waiting in silence, she was not alone for long. HFY Commander Kira Valen sat alone in the dimly lit command center, her gaze fixed on the wide, empty expanse of space outside the station's observation window. The silence of the outpost pressed against her, thick and suffocating, like the weight of a world that had been abandoned. The steady hum of the station's aging systems was the only sound, a reminder that this was all that was left of what had once been a thriving colony. The war had taken everything from her team, her friends, her comrades. One by one, they had all fallen in the fight against the relentless alien invaders. The beings known as the Zevraxi had come without warning, overwhelming the human settlements on the fringe of known space with their advanced weaponry and unyielding forces. Humanity had been unprepared for the sheer scale of the attack. They never stood a chance. And now Kira was here alone, the last survivor of her unit, stranded on a forgotten planet, isolated from the galaxy. The station was nothing more than a cold, metallic shell, suspended in the emptiness, a place of memories, lost hopes, and unanswered questions. Kira had been waiting for something, anything, yet nothing had changed. The war had moved on, leaving her behind in the silence. She stood up, pacing across the small command center, her boots clanging against the hard metal floor. A map of the galaxy flickered on a nearby console, showing the areas controlled by the Zevraxi and the remnants of humanity's scattered colonies. It was a bleak picture, one that made her heart ache with the weight of loss. She had no orders, no mission, just the quiet moments of reflection and the passing days that blurred together. But as Kira continued her silent vigil, a sudden flash of light caught her eye. It wasn't a flare from the station systems, nor was it a distant star. This was something else. A movement, a disturbance. She froze, her heart racing as she turned to the console. Her fingers flew over the controls, activating the station's long-range sensors. A blip appeared on the screen. It was faint at first, but then it grew stronger, larger, and closer. A ship, and it was heading straight for the outpost. Kira's pulse quickened. She couldn't believe it. Was it a rescue ship? Had someone finally noticed her distress signal, or was it another attack? There was no way to know for sure, but the anxiety clawing at her chest told her that it didn't matter. She had to be prepared for anything. Grabbing her weapon from the nearby rack, Kira strapped it to her side and made her way toward the docking bay. Her heart thudded in her ears as she moved swiftly through the corridors, her mind racing. The thought of a rescue brought a fleeting sense of hope, but it was quickly smothered by the reality of the situation. The Zevraxi were everywhere. She couldn't afford to trust anyone, not anymore. When she reached the docking bay, she stopped at the large, reinforced door and activated the control panel. The bay doors groaned and slowly began to open, revealing the darkened sky outside, dotted with the distant light of stars. In the distance, the ship was now clearly visible, an unfamiliar vessel that didn't resemble anything in the human fleet. The design was sleek, almost elegant, unlike the bulky, utilitarian ships used by the Zevraxi. Kira took a deep breath. She knew that she could be walking into a trap. The Zevraxi had used deceit in the past, drawing human ships into ambushes with false signals or fake distress calls. But this felt different. There was something about the ship's approach that didn't seem like an attack. Still, she wasn't going to take any chances. The ship drew closer, its shape now filling the doorway. As it docked with the station, Kira gripped her weapon tighter, her muscles tensing. The moment the airlock cycled open, she stepped forward, ready for whatever was on the other side. Her fingers hovered near the trigger. The hatch hissed as it opened, and Kira's breath caught in her throat. A figure stood in the doorway, tall and imposing, wearing reflective armor that seemed to shimmer in the low light. The figure's face was obscured by a helmet, but there was something about its posture, something regal, something ancient, that immediately made Kira pause. The figure didn't speak at first. It merely stepped forward, its boots making soft sounds against the metal floor. Kira's instincts screamed at her to be cautious, to keep her distance. But as the figure drew closer, a voice echoed in her mind, no words spoken aloud, yet clear as day in her thoughts. "I have come for you." Kira's pulse spiked, her breath caught in her throat. She instinctively took a step back, her hand gripping her weapon tighter. The voice was calm, almost soothing, but there was no mistaking the command in it. It was not a request, it was an order. "Who are you?" Kira demanded, her voice firm, though the uncertainty lingered. "What do you want?" The figure paused for a moment, as if considering her words. Then it spoke again, its voice reverberating in her mind, not through her ears. I am Solari. I have come to offer you a choice. Kira's eyes narrowed. She had no idea what was going on. What choice? Who was this being and why had it come to her? The silence of the station was deafening now, the stillness thick with tension. I am here because the galaxy is changing, Solari continued, its voice resonating with an otherworldly energy. Humanity's time has come. Your kind is stronger than you realize, and I am here to help you unlock that strength. Kira's mind raced. What did it mean? How could humanity be stronger than it already was? She'd seen what the Zevraxi could do, how easily they had crushed her colony. And yet this figure, this being, was offering something. But what was it? I don't understand, Kira said, her voice low. We're losing. Humanity is being wiped out. What could you possibly offer that could change that? Solari stepped forward, the shimmering armor glinting in the low light. The figure's presence felt ancient, almost timeless. There was an aura of power around it, and Kira could feel it, a strange energy that seemed to draw her in. You've been waiting in silence, Commander, Solari said, but you are not alone, not anymore. Kira swallowed, uncertainty still gnawing at her. What does that mean? There is a power within you, Solari said, a power that has lain dormant for millennia. I can awaken it. The words hung in the air between them, a promise, a challenge. Kira felt a shiver run down her spine. Was this a dream? Had she finally lost her mind in the loneliness of space, or was this real? She couldn't afford to ignore the possibility that this was the key to humanity's survival. But even as hope stirred within her, caution remained. She had no way of knowing if this figure was friend or foe. Could she trust it? As Kira stood there, caught between fear and hope, Solari remained silent. There was no more pressure, no immediate threats, only the promise of a choice and a galaxy waiting for humanity to rise. And so Kira waited, once again, this time not in silence, but in the quiet anticipation of what was to come. Kira's mind swirled with confusion. The figure in front of her, still shrouded in its reflective armor, seemed to radiate an aura of calm power. But she couldn't let herself be fooled by that. In her years of military training, she had learned to trust her instincts, and right now, her instincts were screaming that something was wrong. I don't understand, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. How could you possibly help us? Humanity is barely hanging on. We've lost everything. Solari didn't respond immediately. Instead, the figure stepped back slightly, as if giving her space to process the words. The silence in the docking bay seemed to stretch, each second thick with anticipation. Then the voice echoed in her mind once again, this time more insistent, more soothing. Commander Kira Valen, I have watched your kind from the shadows for many lifetimes. The Zevraxi are only one force in a much larger struggle. Humanity's potential is far beyond your current understanding, but I am here to help you see it. Kira's heart skipped a beat. She had never heard anyone speak like this before. It was as if the figure knew everything about her, her name, her past, even the battles she had fought. The thought sent a shiver down her spine. How could a being like this have watched humanity for so long, yet remained hidden? The weight of her situation began to press down on her again. She was alone in this forgotten station, with a strange being offering her help. Was it a trick, a trap, or was there some truth in its words? What do you want from me? Kira asked, her voice low. She kept her hand on her sidearm, though her grip had loosened. It seemed to be a reflex, more than a conscious decision. She had to be prepared for anything. Solari tilted its head slightly, as though considering her question. Then the voice answered again, calm and unyielding. I want to help you unlock what you already are, but you must first accept the truth. The truth that you, Commander Kira Valen, are part of something much greater than you realize. You carry the potential to lead humanity into its rightful place in the galaxy. Kira furrowed her brows, uncertain. And what would that mean? What does it take to unlock this potential? The figure slowly extended a hand, palm facing her, its silver-gloved fingers catching the dim light of the station. The path is not easy, but you are ready. You have already fought longer than most could ever hope to. The power I offer you is not one of violence or destruction, but one of understanding. You will gain the strength to stand against any enemy, not with brute force, but with the knowledge and wisdom of the ancients. Kira was skeptical. She had heard countless speeches in the past from commanders, generals, and even diplomats, promising her that humanity would rise again, that they had the strength to fight back. But none of them had been able to deliver. She had lost so much, and the war had taken everything from her. Was this different? Why me? Kira asked, the question finally escaping her lips. Why choose me? There are so many others, I'm just one person. Solari didn't answer immediately, its presence now more palpable than ever. The silence in the room stretched again, and for a moment, Kira almost thought she could hear the pulse of her own heartbeat echoing in the air. Because you have already proven yourself, Solari replied, the words ringing with quiet conviction. You have already faced loss, pain, and fear, and yet you still stand. You are stronger than you realize, Commander. Your heart has not broken, and that is rare among your people. Kira stood still, her thoughts swirling. The room felt both claustrophobic and vast, as though the weight of the universe was pressing in on her. Her mind flashed to the faces of the comrades she had lost, the soldiers who had fought beside her, the friends she had watched die in the cold void of space. She thought of her home, the colony that was now nothing but rubble, the memory of the people who had once lived there haunting her every waking moment. You want me to trust you, Kira said slowly, to accept this power and become something else, something greater. But how do I know I'm not just another pawn in some game I don't understand? Solari took a step closer, and for the first time, the helmeted figure seemed to exude something like empathy. Trust is a difficult thing to give, especially when you have been betrayed. But I do not ask for blind faith. I offer you the truth. If you choose to accept this power, it is yours to control. You will not be a pawn. You will be a leader, a beacon for your people. Kira hesitated. She had spent so much of her life trusting others, only to watch them fall. Now, standing in front of this being, she couldn't shake the feeling that the stakes were higher than ever before. She could feel the weight of the choice pressing on her shoulders. She had no allies left, no reinforcements on the way. The galaxy was a vast, cruel place, and humanity had always been outnumbered, outgunned, and overlooked. Was this really her chance to change that? Okay, Kira finally said, her voice steady. I'll listen. But I need to understand more. I can't make this decision in the dark. Solari nodded once, as though this was the answer it had been waiting for. The figure stepped back and extended its hand toward Kira again, but this time the air around them seemed to shimmer with energy. She could feel it, something ancient and powerful. It was as if the room itself was breathing with life, as if the station itself had become a part of the moment. The figure spoke once more, the voice clear in Kira's mind. The power within you is not just a gift, Commander. It is a responsibility. The universe will test you, but you will not face it alone. Humanity's future is tied to the choices you make. Kira's hand hovered near the outstretched hand, her fingers trembling. For a moment, she wondered if she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. But as she reached out, the uncertainty faded, replaced by something else. Hope. As her fingers brushed against the figure's glove, the power surged through her, a feeling so intense it nearly knocked her off her feet. A warmth spread from her chest outward, filling her body with energy and clarity. Her mind opened, and in that instant she understood. She understood that this was not about brute strength or even warfare. It was about something far greater, a connection to the ancient power that had been dormant within her people for centuries. Her breath caught in her throat as she realized the truth. She had never been alone. She had never been abandoned. The power of the ancients flowed through her now, and with it came the responsibility of guiding humanity to its place in the stars. Solari spoke again, the voice now a quiet hum in her mind. The path will not be easy, but it is yours to walk. You will lead humanity to a new future, and I will be here to help you. Kira's vision cleared, and she felt a sudden surge of determination. She was no longer the last survivor of a forgotten outpost. She was something more now, something that had the power to change the course of history. She had a purpose again. I'll do it, Kira said, her voice stronger than she had ever heard it before. I'll fight for humanity. And I'll lead. The days following Kira's decision were a blur of intense training and strange revelations. The power that had been unlocked within her seemed to hum beneath her skin, like an invisible force that was always there, waiting to be tapped into. She could feel it now, a presence just beneath the surface of her thoughts. It wasn't an alien force. No, it was something deeper, something older. It was the power of the ancients, the very essence of humanity's lost heritage. Solari remained by her side, offering guidance and training as she struggled to harness the power within. At first, it felt like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. Every time Kira tried to summon the energy, it slipped through her fingers, fleeting and elusive. But Solari was patient, never rushing her, never showing frustration. It was clear that the figure had seen countless others struggle before her. In time, Kira would learn. But it wasn't just about learning to control the power. The real challenge, as Solari kept reminding her, was understanding why she had been chosen for this task. The strength you now possess is not meant for destruction, Solari would say, its voice as calm and steady as always. It is a tool for knowledge, for leadership. Humanity's path will not be forged by the might of weapons alone. It will be forged by the wisdom you possess, and that is what I am here to help you discover. At times, Kira wondered if Solari truly believed that, or if it was simply what the figure wanted her to believe. The weight of her responsibilities seemed to grow with every passing day. Humanity had been fractured, scattered across the galaxy, and Kira was now somehow supposed to lead them. The thought of it was overwhelming. How could one person, one broken survivor, be enough to unite the remnants of her people? Yet, when she stood before the ancient relics that Solari had shown her, when she let her mind connect with the long-forgotten wisdom of the Starborn, something changed. The power within her grew more solid, more tangible. She could see the possibilities. She could feel the threads of fate and destiny weaving together, guiding her hand toward something greater. It was a humbling, terrifying feeling. One evening, as Kira sat alone in the observation room of the station, her mind wandered to the future. She could see the faces of those she had lost, her friends, her comrades, the people who had trusted her to lead them. They were gone now, but their memory lived on in her heart, a constant reminder of the cost of war. Could she really live up to their expectations? Could she really be the one to lead humanity out of the darkness? The silence of the station surrounded her again, and for a moment she felt the weight of the galaxy pressing in on her. She closed her eyes, trying to focus, trying to steady the storm of thoughts that raged in her mind. But just as she was about to give in to the overwhelming doubt, a soft sound broke the silence, a soft knock on the door of the observation room. Kira's eyes snapped open. Her hand instinctively moved to the weapon at her side, but she hesitated. She knew it wasn't the enemy. It was Solari, or at least she hoped it was. Her heart raced as the door slid open, revealing the figure in its shimmering armor. There was something different in the way it moved this time, something that hinted at urgency. "Commander Valen," Solari said, its voice low and purposeful. "It is time." Kira stood up, confused. "Time for what?" "Time to make a choice," Solari replied. "The galaxy will not wait for you forever. You must decide whether you are ready to embrace your role as a leader, as the one who will guide humanity to its place among the stars." Kira's mind raced. She had known this moment was coming, but the weight of the decision still felt like a crushing burden. How could she be ready? The weight of the lives that had already been lost pressed heavily on her shoulders. How could she be the one to change everything? "I don't know if I can do it," Kira admitted, her voice trembling. She turned away from Solari, looking out the observation window at the vastness of space. "I've lost so much. I'm not sure I have anything left to give." Solari remained silent for a moment, as though processing her words. Then it spoke, its tone softer than Kira had ever heard before. "The strength within you was never about what you had left to give, Commander. It was about who you are. It was about your heart, your courage, your ability to see beyond the darkness and to hold on to hope. You have already proven yourself. You have already fought for your people when all seemed lost. You have already made the hard choices. Now you must choose again. Will you lead them into the light, or will you let the darkness consume all that you have fought for?" Kira closed her eyes, taking a slow, steadying breath. It was true. She had fought. She had survived. And in doing so, she had become something more than just a soldier. She had become a symbol, a beacon of hope for those who still believed in the possibility of humanity's future. Solari stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are not alone in this. I will guide you, but the path you walk must be yours. Only you can make the final choice." Kira turned to face the figure. The uncertainty that had clouded her thoughts seemed to fade, replaced by something new, a sense of clarity, a feeling of resolve. She was no longer the commander who had watched everything she loved fall apart. She was something more now. She was the one who could help humanity rise again. "I choose to lead," Kira said, her voice firm. "I will fight for humanity. I will give everything I have to ensure our survival." Solari nodded, a faint shimmer of approval passing through its posture. "Then it is time to begin. The war is far from over, Commander, and you are not alone in this fight." Kira's heart steadied. She wasn't just the last survivor of a lost colony anymore. She was part of something greater, something that had been waiting for her, waiting for humanity. The journey ahead would be long, and the challenges would be immense. But for the first time in what felt like forever, Kira felt ready. The choices she had made had led her here, and the choices she would make from now on would lead her people to the stars. With Solari's guidance and the strength that now burned within her, Kira knew she could face whatever was to come. The galaxy was vast, and the war against the Zevraxi would be brutal, but humanity would fight on. And with that, a new chapter began. Kira stood on the bridge of the ancient ship, feeling the hum of its systems beneath her feet. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. The technology was older than anything the human race had ever created, yet somehow it was more advanced, more sophisticated. The ship seemed to be alive, pulsing with energy, as though it had a purpose far beyond that of a simple warship. Solari stood nearby, observing her closely. It had been days since Kira had made her choice to lead. Since then, the figure had guided her through the early stages of the training, teaching her how to harness the power that had been awakened within her. But now the time had come to put that power to the test. The ship was ready, and so was she. "We are approaching the heart of the Zevraxi Empire," Solari said, its voice calm but filled with purpose. "Once we enter their territory, there will be no turning back. The battle will begin, but remember, Commander, this is not just a fight for survival. This is a fight for the future of your people." Kira nodded, though the weight of Solari's words pressed heavily on her chest. She had never been one to shy away from a fight, but this was different. This wasn't just a skirmish or a raid. This was the beginning of something much larger, a war that would decide whether humanity would be wiped out or rise to its place among the stars. She glanced at the star chart on the console, watching as the map of the galaxy shifted before her eyes. The Zevraxi controlled vast swaths of territory, their forces stretching across countless systems. But humanity, scattered and fractured as it was, had never stopped fighting. And now, with the power of the ancients at her side, Kira felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. "We will need to rally the other colonies," Kira said, her voice firm. "We can't do this alone." Solari's helmet tilted slightly, as though considering her words. "The other colonies have been scattered, their strength diminished. Many of them will not respond to a call for help. But you are the key, Commander. You must unite them. You must show them that humanity is still a force to be reckoned with." Kira felt the weight of the responsibility settle deeper into her bones. The other colonies, the survivors of humanity scattered across the galaxy, had all gone their separate ways. Some had given up, choosing to live in the shadows rather than face the Zevraxi head-on. Others had turned against each other, fighting for resources, for power, for survival. It would be no easy task to unite them all under one banner, but she had to try. "Then we start with what we have," Kira said, determination in her voice. "We fight with what we have, and we show them that humanity will not be erased. We will make them listen." The ship's engines hummed louder, signaling that they were entering the Zevraxi Empire's territory. The feeling of anticipation in the air was palpable, a quiet tension that hung over the crew. The journey had been long, and now the final confrontation was almost at hand. Kira took a deep breath, steadying herself for what was to come. She stepped forward, taking her place at the command console. Her hands rested on the controls, and for a moment she felt the weight of the responsibility press down on her. She was no longer just a commander of a small outpost. She was leading humanity's fight for survival. Every decision she made now would shape the future of her people. "Prepare the fleet," Kira ordered, her voice steady. "We're going in." The ship's crew, a mix of humans and starborn, those who had once been lost to the shadows of the galaxy, moved quickly to carry out her orders. The ancient ship systems began to come alive, its weapons powering up, its shields coming online. Kira could feel the power of the ship at her command, and it filled her with a strange sense of confidence. As the ship moved deeper into enemy territory, the first signs of resistance appeared. A small fleet of Zevraxi warships emerged from the dark void of space, their sleek, angular ships gleaming under the stars. They were fast, their weapons powerful, but Kira wasn't afraid. She had the strength of the ancients on her side, and she wasn't going to back down. "Engage them," Kira ordered, her voice cold and commanding. The ship responded to her command, its weapons firing with precision, launching a barrage of energy blasts at the approaching Zevraxi fleet. The first wave of enemy ships exploded in a brilliant flash of light, but Kira knew this was only the beginning. More ships would come. The Zevraxi would not give up easily. Solari's voice echoed in her mind, calm and steady. "You are ready for this, Commander. Remember the power within you. Use it wisely." Kira's mind focused, and for the first time she reached out with the power she had unlocked. She felt it surge through her, a force so strong it felt like the very fabric of space itself was bending to her will. She didn't just control the ship. She controlled the energy around her, the very space in which the battle was unfolding. Her hand lifted, almost instinctively, and she felt the power flow through her. A burst of energy shot out from her hand, a wave of force so strong it sent shockwaves through the enemy fleet. The Zevraxi ships began to falter, their formations breaking apart as they struggled to regain control. "This is just the beginning," Kira said under her breath. She felt the power within her more than she had ever imagined. The battle was far from over, but with each moment, Kira felt more confident, more in control. The ship systems began to analyze the remaining Zevraxi fleet, targeting their weak points. Kira's mind moved in sync with the technology, each decision flowing naturally from her. The ancient power within her gave her a sense of clarity, a sharpness of focus that she had never experienced before. She wasn't just a soldier anymore. She was something more. "We've got them," Kira said, watching as the remaining enemy ships scrambled to retreat. Her fleet, though smaller, had been forged from the remnants of humanity's colonies, each ship brimming with resolve, powered by the belief that they could still win. But just as victory seemed within reach, a new threat emerged. The Zevraxi's flagship, a massive, monstrous ship, appeared from the darkness, its weapons already charging. It was unlike anything Kira had ever seen, an entire city of war bristling with weapons and shields. It dwarfed any ship in her fleet, and it wasn't retreating. It was charging straight toward them. "Prepare to engage the flagship," Kira said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "This will be our final stand." Solari's presence filled her mind again. "This is the true test, Commander, but you are ready," Kira nodded. She could feel the power inside her swirling like a storm waiting to be unleashed. She wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. She was fighting for humanity's future. With a calm breath, Kira issued the command. "Engage full power. We take them down no matter the cost." The battle that followed was fierce. The Zevraxi flagship's weapons lashed out with brutal force, but Kira and her fleet fought back with everything they had. Energy blasts filled the space between the two forces, lighting up the void with explosions and flashes of light. But Kira was no longer just reacting. She was controlling the flow of the battle, her every move guided by the power of the ancients. The Zevraxi flagship fired again, its weapons aimed directly at Kira's ship. She felt the energy surge within her, and with a single thought, she redirected the blast, sending it back toward the flagship. The Zevraxi ship exploded in a blinding flash of light, and the remaining enemy ships scattered in all directions. Kira stood at the helm of the ship, breathing heavily. The battle was won, but this was just the beginning. The war was far from over, and she would lead humanity to victory no matter the cost. "We've done it," Kira said, her voice strong. "But this is only the start. We have much more to do." Solari's voice echoed in her mind once again, a quiet but powerful presence. "Yes, Commander, this is just the beginning. You are ready." As the crew celebrated their victory, Kira knew the road ahead would be long and difficult. But she was no longer afraid. She had the power within her. And with that power, humanity's future was within reach. The aftermath of the battle left the crew exhausted, but there was no time for rest. As the remnants of the Zevraxi fleet scattered in the wake of their defeat, Kira stood on the bridge of the ancient ship, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. She could feel the weight of what had just happened, the victory that had been earned through blood and sacrifice. But she also knew this was just a small battle in a much larger war. Kira's mind raced as she thought about the next steps. The flagship had been destroyed, but there were still countless Zevraxi forces spread across the galaxy. Humanity had struck a blow, but the war was far from over. She could hear the soft hum of the ship systems, a steady reminder that the battle for the future was just beginning. Solari stood nearby, watching her with quiet patience. The figure had been by her side since the beginning, guiding her through the process of unlocking her power and helping her make the choices that had brought her this far. Kira felt a deep sense of gratitude toward Solari, but she also understood that the being's guidance could only take her so far. The rest of the journey would be hers to lead. "Commander," Solari said, its voice calm as always, "you have done what many thought impossible. But there is much more to be done." Kira nodded, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. "I know. The Zevraxi are still out there and the colonies are scattered and divided. We've won one battle, but the war is far from over. We need to unite the remaining colonies. We need to show humanity that we're not done yet." Solari's presence seemed to grow stronger, more focused. "You will need to call upon more than just the strength of your people, Commander. You will need to call upon the strength of your resolve. Only with unity can humanity truly rise again." Kira turned to face Solari, her heart heavy with the weight of what needed to be done. The colonies were fractured, each struggling to survive on their own. Some had fallen to the Zevraxi, others had turned inward, fighting among themselves for scraps of resources. Uniting them would be no easy task, but it was the only way forward. "Then we'll begin with what we have," Kira said, her voice steady. "We'll take this victory and we'll use it to rally the rest of humanity. We'll show them that we can still fight. We'll show them that we can still win." Solari nodded, its helmet tilting slightly in approval. "The first step is to reach out to the colonies. They will not come willingly, but with your leadership they will see that hope is not lost. You must be their beacon, their guide through the darkness." Kira took a deep breath, her mind already turning to the next steps. The victory they had just achieved was a symbol, a sign that humanity still had the strength to fight. It was up to her to make sure that this victory was more than just a fleeting moment in time. It had to be the spark that ignited a larger movement, one that would unite humanity in the face of overwhelming odds. She looked down at the console in front of her, her fingers lightly touching the controls. The ship's communication systems flickered to life, and she quickly sent a transmission to the nearest human colony. It was a long shot. Communication was difficult in the vastness of space, and many colonies had shut themselves off from the outside world, fearing the Zevraxi or simply choosing to survive on their own. But this was different. This was a call for unity, a call to fight back. The transmission was simple but powerful. "This is Commander Kira Valen. Humanity has struck a blow against the Zevraxi. We have the strength to fight. We have the power to win. Join us, and together we can rebuild what has been lost." Kira felt a sense of hope rising within her as the transmission was sent. It was only the first step, but it was an important one. The colonies had to hear her message. They had to know that they were not alone. She wasn't sure how many would respond or how many still believed in the possibility of victory, but she had to try. "Now we wait," Kira said softly, turning to face Solari. "We wait for the response." Solari's presence was calm, unwavering. "The response will come. Trust in your people, Commander. They are more resilient than you think." Hours passed, and the tension on the ship was palpable. Kira stood at the command console, her eyes scanning the screens for any sign of communication. The silence was almost unbearable. But she refused to let it break her resolve. She had made her choice, and she would stand by it. Finally, just as she thought the silence would swallow her whole, the console beeped. A new transmission had been received. Kira's heart skipped a beat as she activated it, holding her breath as the message began to play. "This is Captain Myra Solis of the Alaris colony. We hear you, Commander. We are not without hope. We will stand with you. Together we will fight." Kira's breath caught in her throat. It was the response she had hoped for, but not the one she had expected so quickly. The Alaris colony was one of the largest surviving human settlements, and their support would be a critical turning point in the war. She felt a wave of relief and gratitude wash over her. This was just the beginning, but it was a victory in itself. "We are not alone," Kira whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "Humanity is not finished." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as more colonies responded to her call. Some were hesitant, still wary of the Zevraxi, unsure of whether they could trust her or her message. Others were quick to join, their resolve hardened by years of isolation and fear. But one by one, the colonies began to unite under Kira's leadership. Solari's presence remained by her side, offering quiet guidance, but Kira knew that the true work was just beginning. She had rallied the first wave of humanity's remaining strength, but there was much more to be done. The Zevraxi were still out there, and they would not stop until humanity was wiped out completely. "We need to prepare," Kira said, her voice steady with purpose. We need to train, we need to fortify, and we need to be ready for the next wave of attacks. The Zevraxi won't wait for us to organize. We have to strike back before they strike again. Solari nodded in agreement. You are right, Commander. The next steps will be critical. But you have already taken the first step. You have shown humanity that there is still hope. Kira looked out at the stars, the vastness of space stretching before her. The road ahead would be long and the battles would be fierce. But for the first time in a long while, she felt ready. Humanity's future was not lost. They had the strength to survive, and with her leadership, they would fight for it. We will fight, Kira said, her voice filled with determination. And we will win.